Greetings and salutations. Thank you for lending an ear to The Voice of the Times this Saturday, April 3, 2021. For today's editorial, thumbs down on longer lockdown. Later today, President Rodrigo Duterte is scheduled to make a decision on whether or not the enhanced community quarantine imposed over the so-called NCR Plus, the National Capital Region, and the adjoining provinces of Rizal, Bulacan, Cavite, and Laguna should be extended beyond its expiration on Sunday, April 4. It should not be. The week-long lockdown, which began on March 29, has not served its intended purpose of significantly reducing the surge in COVID-19 cases, and clearly will not if continued in its present form. One clue that the lockdown has had little, if any, positive effect on the number of COVID-19 cases is in the official data provided by the Department of Health, or DOH. The number of new daily cases has not been a reliable indicator, as its inconsistency has been attributed in part to the timing of the transmission and posting of data from testing labs to the DOH database. The number of new cases has fluctuated in the past few days, from an all-time high of 10,016 on March 29 to a relatively less alarming 6,128 on March 31. But what has remained disturbingly consistent is the increase in the reported percentage of tests with positive results. That has climbed from 18% on March 29 to 21.1% as of April 1, even as the daily number of tests being conducted is increasing, albeit slowly. At the same time, there has been an increasing number of reports from hospitals and patients that healthcare facilities are operating at capacity and are unable to take in new patients or are resorting to holding patients in less than ideal temporary spaces, such as tents set up outside the hospital buildings. Even though many of these reports are anecdotal and have been discounted by the DOH, it has been hesitant or it is perhaps simply unable to provide a clear and credible picture of the extent of hospital congestion or availability. Taken together, the situation after 1 week of lockdown is that the actual public health crisis has not improved to any discernible degree and may have even gotten worse. At the same time, businesses and households have again been cut off from sources of income. In effect, the lockdown has only compounded the challenges faced by the population and the government, which most rational people would consider an undesirable outcome. The issue is not so much that the lockdown has been imposed, but that it has been wasted by the government. Other countries have resorted to lockdowns as an immediate step to control a spike in COVID-19 cases, but have used the time to aggressively carry out large-scale testing, contact tracing, and isolation of infected and exposed people. The lockdown conditions are no less economically damaging or stressful under these circumstances, but they are properly used to carry out the public health activities necessary to make the lockdowns as brief as possible. That is not being done here now, and frankly, has not been done in any sort of organized way since the pandemic arrived in the Philippines more than a year ago. Given that the DOH or the other officials of the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases have not articulated a clear strategy to do that, there is no apparent justification for continuing the current lockdown. Under the circumstances, we would offer the following recommendations as an alternative to extending an already purposeless lockdown. Obviously, implementing an effective contact tracing program would be the first suggestion, as that would naturally lead to more extensive testing. Much more testing should be conducted at government behest and expense, instead of being almost completely voluntary, as it is now, to ensure greater coverage. So-called mass testing may not be feasible or even necessary, but it is clear more is needed. The economic activities and movement of people that are currently restricted should also be carefully reviewed for relevance. From our admittedly unscientific point of view, it does seem that many activities are probably justifiably deemed as not strictly necessary for people's economic well-being, but the current restrictions have curtailed many that evidently are vital. Causing economic hardship will only make the pandemic more difficult to resolve, and a better balance of risk must be found. And that's the editorial for Saturday, April 3, 2021. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to our digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and listen to The Voice of the Times.